My name is Evelyn Vance, and for 32 years I've worked the 6 a.m. shift at the Silver Coin Diner. In a city like this, fast, cold, and constantly changing, the diner is an anchor. I've seen kids grow up to be doctors, and I've seen doctors lose everything and come in for a quiet cup of coffee they couldn't afford. I know everyone's name, their kids' birthdays, and exactly how they like their eggs. I'm 69 years old. I drive a 2012 Ford F-15. Oh, with a dent in the tailgate and a heater that takes 10 minutes to kick in. I wear orthopedic sneakers and a polyester uniform that smells faintly of maple syrup and bacon grease. To the new people moving into the neighborhood, the ones in the high-rise lofts and the electric sports cars, I am a nobody. I am background noise, a servant, a relic of a gritty past they are trying to paint over with pastel colors and expensive coffee shops. But I have a secret. 30 years ago, this neighborhood wasn't trendy. It was a graveyard of abandoned factories and broken windows. My husband, Frank, and I worked 3 jobs each. We didn't buy fancy clothes or go on vacations. We bought brick. We bought mortar. We bought the old, useless industrial buildings no one else wanted. When Frank passed away 10 years ago, he left me a portfolio of properties that would make a Wall Street hedge fund manager blush. I own the lofts, the boutiques, and the very building the diner sits in. But I still show up at 6 a.m. I still wear the apron because Frank used to say, "The moment you think you're too good to serve coffee is the moment you've lost your soul." The trouble arrived in the form of a matte gold Lamborghini. Brad and Tiffany were influencers. That's what the younger waitresses told me. They had 5 million followers and 0 manners. They had just moved into the penthouse of the Foundry, my crown jewel property, a refurbished factory with 12-foot windows and original hardwood floors. They started coming into the diner every morning, but they didn't come to eat. They came to create content. Ugh, the lighting in here is so aesthetic, but the smell is tragic, Tiffany would say, holding her $1,200 phone on a gimbal, filming herself while I tried to pour her coffee. They treated me like a prop. They'd snap their fingers at me like I was a dog. "Hey, Grandma, more napkins, and make sure they aren't the cheap, scratchy ones." Brad was worse. He'd sit there on his loudspeaker phone, talking about disrupting markets and crushing the competition, while leaving a mess of sugar packets and spilled cream on my table. "Evelyn, don't let them get to you," the cook, Manny, would whisper. "I'm fine, Manny," I'd say, wiping the counter. "The louder the dog barks, the smaller the heart." The breaking point happened on a rainy Thursday. The diner was packed. I was carrying a tray with 3 plates of biscuits and gravy and a glass of ice water. As I passed their table, Brad suddenly stood up to take a selfie. Bumping my elbow, the glass tipped. Maybe 5 drops of water landed on Tiffany's handbag. A white crocodile skin thing that probably cost more than my truck. The scream she let out was so sharp it stopped every conversation in the building. "You clumsy old hag," Tiffany shrieked, jumping up. She grabbed the bag as if it were a wounded child. "Do you have any idea what this costs? This is a limited edition. You probably don't even make this much in a year." "I'm so sorry, dear," I said, reaching for a clean cloth. "It's just a bit of water, "Don't touch it," Brad roared, stepping in front of me. He was filming now. "Look at this, guys," he said to his phone. This is what happens when you let these fossils stay in the workforce. They're a hazard. He turned to me, his face inches from mine. You're a waitress, a low-level minimum wage servant. You're the reason this neighborhood was a dump for so long. People like us, people with actual value, are the ones who own this town now. You're just a ghost waiting for a funeral. Brad, I said, my voice steady. I apologized, but you shouldn't speak to people that way. I'll speak however I want, he sneered. He looked at the manager's office. I want her fired, right now, or I'll tell my 5 million followers that this place has an infestation. You want to see how fast I can shut you down? I didn't get fired. The manager, Pete, knew exactly who I was, but I told Pete to stay in his office. I wanted to see how far they would go. I finished my shift. I walked out to the parking lot, my joints aching from the rain. I just wanted to go home, feed my cat, and sit in silence. But the gold Lamborghini was parked horizontally across the back of my truck, completely blocking me in. Brad and Tiffany were leaning against it, smirking. We're not moving until you pay for the cleaning of the bag, Tiffany said, crossing her arms. Or you can get on your knees and apologize properly while we record it. It'll be a great humility lesson for our vlog. Move the car, Brad, I said. Make me, Grandma, he laughed. You're loitering on private property anyway. This lot belongs to the management company of the foundry. I pay $10,000 a month in rent. I practically own the asphalt you're standing on. Is that right? I asked. I reached into my worn-out leather purse. I didn't pull out a wallet. I pulled out a heavy ring of master keys and a thick manila envelope. I walked past them to the Lamborghini. What are you doing? Don't touch the car, Brad yelled, stepping toward me. I didn't look at him. I looked at the security guard who had just walked over from the lofts. Marcus, I called out. Yes, Mrs. Vance, the guard said, tipping his cap to me with deep respect. Brad and Tiffany froze. Mrs. Vance, Tiffany whispered. Marcus, I said, could you please call the heavy-duty tow truck? There's a vehicle obstructing my exit on my private lot. And tell them to be careful. I hear the paint job is very expensive. Brad stepped forward, his bravado crumbling. Your private lot? What are you talking about? This belongs to E.L. Properties. I'm the E, Brad, I said, turning to face him. Evelyn, my husband was the L, Leonard. In this city, people like Brad and Tiffany think they can buy respect with a matte gold car and a camera lens. They thought I was a ghost waiting for a funeral. But today, they're the ones getting haunted by the truth. I'm about to show them what happens when you treat a queen like a servant. If you think it's time these two got a lesson in humility, smash that like button right now. Don't let the story end here. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're the first to see the look on their faces when the chains start rattling. And if you know someone who needs to remember that kindness is the only real wealth we have, share this story. Let's show the world that the nobodies are the ones who actually own the street. I opened the manila envelope and pulled out a document. I didn't hand it to him. I held it up so his phone camera could see it. This is a notice to vacate for Penthouse A, I said. Every lease in my buildings has a community conduct clause. It states that tenants who engage in the harassment or verbal abuse of local residents or service staff are in immediate material breach. You can't do that over a glass of water, Tiffany stammered, her face turning a sickly shade of gray. It's not about the water, Tiffany, I said. It's about the fact that you think money gives you the right to be cruel. You told me I was a nobody who didn't own the asphalt I stood on. Well, as it turns out, I own the roof over your head, too. The tow truck arrived 10 minutes later. The sound of the chains rattling made Brad look like he was going to cry. "Wait, please," Brad said, his voice high and desperate. "We have a party tonight. Our sponsors are coming. If we get evicted, we'll lose everything. Our brand is built on that penthouse view." "Then I guess your brand was built on sand," I said. I climbed into my old Ford truck. I rolled down the window and looked at them. They looked so small, standing there next to their gold car, which was being hoisted into the air. "I worked at that diner for 30 years because I like people," I said. "I like seeing the best in them. But people like you only see the price of things. You never learned the value." "Where are we supposed to go?" Tiffany wailed. "I hear there are some very aesthetic motels on the outskirts of town," I said. "The lighting is tragic, but the humility lessons are free." I pulled out of the lot, leaving them standing in the rain. 2 weeks later, the penthouse was empty. I didn't rent it out to another influencer. Instead, I worked with a local nonprofit to turn the building's vacant units into subsidized housing for retired teachers and nurses, the real nobodies who had built this city. Brad and Tiffany's brand didn't survive the scandal. Someone had posted the video of the parking lot confrontation, and their followers turned on them overnight. Last I heard, they were living in a small studio in another state, trying to explain to their remaining fans why they didn't have a gold car anymore. As for me, I'm still at the diner. Every morning at 6 a.m. I put on my apron. I pour the coffee. I listen to the stories. Because in this city, you never know who is sitting across the counter from you. You never know if the person serving your eggs is the person who owns the street. So, if you ever come to the silver coin, be kind. Not because the waitress might be a millionaire, but because being kind is the only thing that actually makes you rich.